Okay, welcome back. Thank you for visiting the Folsom Physical Therapy Library. The topic today is lymphatic drainage. You'll find that if you have any fluid accumulation, any swelling, it is really important to take care of it right away, to be aggressive about it. If the swelling accumulates, then it will cause distension of the connective tissue, and as the fluids accumulate, the proteins in the fluid will start to aggregate together, and the fluid will become sticky like glue instead of slick like oil. And then it'll start to thicken the connective tissue, sticken the connective tissue together, decrease the sliding between layers of the connective tissue, and this plays havoc with your body in several ways. One is that it will change the distribution of mechanical forces up the chain, so it'll have a tendency to get wear and tear on different parts of your body. It will decrease the circulation in the area so that the tissue will not be as healthy or heal as well from damage. It will change the tension that is communicated through the connective tissue to the muscle spindles of the muscles that are in the same synergy up and down the chain. So the timing of the muscle function is going to be altered, and you're going to have then more shearing at the joints, more tendinitis develop. I was at a conference years ago, and the speaker made a statement. I thought, I'm going to repeat that 1,000 times. I'm going to repeat it once more for you, and that is this. You have to convince people that have non-painful swelling that they need to make it a priority, because the swelling will create pressure. Pressure creates heat. Heat creates cell death. And I thought that will get people's attention, and it's absolutely true. So when you have non-painful swelling because of a cardiac issue, or if the lymphatic system and the venous system is temporarily over-challenged because of an orthopedic injury, you need to make it the priority in your care. You'll find that the more time that the body part is dependent where it's below your heart, then gravity is going to pull the fluid down. Every time you allow the fluid to occupy space, it's like blowing air into a balloon. The first time you blow air into a balloon, it takes a lot of force in order to get the balloon to blow. But every time you do, it gets easier, easier because the walls stretch out. You don't want the walls of your tissue to stretch out, because then you're going to have a long-standing problem with fluid accumulation when you're on your feet or your arm is dependent for very long. So you're going to fight this by using gravity as your friend instead of your enemy. You need to get down as often as you need to during the day in order to prevent the fluid from accumulating. Where the body part that has the swelling is above your heart, it doesn't count if you're sitting in a recliner, because the fluid will run downhill, but it can't easily run uphill in order to get to the drain. And the drain is right below your collarbone on both sides. So you need to get it, if you're going to be efficient, you need to get it so the body part that has the swelling, so the fluid will run downhill, makes it much, much easier. And then you're going to create a pumping action in order to try to move the fluid along. You're going to start at the drain. As I said, the lymphatic vessels will drain right below the collarbone, and you're going to access those by getting the flat of your hand and putting it on your chest right below your collarbone. Believe it or not, your entire body will drain under the left collarbone, except for your right upper quadrant, right head, thoracic cage, arm. The rest of your body is going to drain underneath the left collarbone. So unless you have swelling in the right upper quadrant, the left subclavicular space is going to be the target. You might as well pump both sides at a time, but you want to have it so that your right hand is down, so that it has the most access to the left subclavial space. When you are putting the pressure down, you like to use the flat of your hand, because you want to visualize if there was a sponge on a counter and you put pressure on the sponge, the water would ooze out of the sponge, and it would take a little time. And then when you would let the pressure off, then more fluid could come into the sponge, so then again you could move it along. And so she is going to take the flat of her hand, she's going to apply a little pressure down against her thoracic cage, hold it for a second or two. She's going to let it off, and she's going to allow the fluid to refill. She's going to do a pump, and she'll do ballpark about 5 pumps. And so that should clear the drain. The next stop is going to be your diaphragm. And the diaphragm, when the diaphragm moves, it acts as a pumping station to move fluid through your body. It is just a fantastic tool. And the best way to get the diaphragm to move is if you breathe in through your nose and try to feel or enjoy the air circulating at the top of the nostrils. It's a pretty pleasurable thing to do. You'll want to keep breathing in, and you'll find if you breathe relatively hard through your nose, it forces you to suck with your diaphragm and your belly will move. You don't have to strain, but you want to get the largest volume change in your abdomen and your thoracic cage as possible. So you breathe in and let the air fill. And when you breathe out, again, you don't have to strain at the bottom, but you want to get a bunch of air out so that there's a change in volume, a change in pressure in your abdominal and your thoracic cage, and that will move the fluid, again, cephalad towards the drain. So you do about 5 breaths. The next place that you want to declog is the lymph nodes right at the top of the groin, and right as the body and the thigh come together, there's a bunch of lymph nodes right in the inner thigh. And so she's going to again take the flat of her hand, do 5 pumps against the top of the thigh. The nice thing about the lymphatic system is you don't have to be spot on. You can be more or less accurate, but it's just a change in pressure to move the fluid along. So it's okay if you're not in the exact right spot, but you'll see a change as you do this. So then in the clinic, then the therapist would take their hands and they would squeeze the fluid. They would squeeze the fluid in your thigh, in your calf, in your foot. They would move the fluid along with a brushing action to try to move the fluid towards the drain. When you're at home, you won't be able to reach. So you're going to get this pressure change in this case, your lower extremities with a muscle action. So she'll squeeze your buttocks 5 times. And she'll give it time for the pressure to move the fluid. She'll give it time with the relaxation for the fluid to refill. So she'll do 5 buttock squeezes. Then she's going to tighten up her thighs 5 times. And then she's going to get a pumping action in her calves and in her feet by pulling her toes up hard, by pushing her toes down hard. Again, a change in muscle action, change in pressure, change in position in order to squeeze the fluid. If we have it so that the fluid will run downhill, it's going to start to drain the area. So then once she does her 5 muscle contractions down the chain, she'll go back to the drain. She'll put her hand, she needs to have her right hand underneath the left because the left side is the more important, unless it's the right upper quadrant that we're trying to drain. So then she'll do 5 pumps. She'll do 5 diaphragmatic breaths, trying to get as much air exchange as possible. She'll do 5 pumps at the inguinal area where the lymph nodes are, right at the top of the thigh. 5 squeezes, 5 squeezes, 5 squeezes, ankle pumps. She'll move the fluid out. So again, you'll need to do this as long as you need and as often as you need in order to prevent the fluid from coming on. The key is to prevent the fluid from coming on so that the surrounding tissues will tighten and then they will resist the swelling that would occur. It's like resetting the balloon back to a starting tension so that you'll have more time during the day when you can function. So the one strategy is to get off your feet often enough, drain the tissue. The other is to wear a compression garment. And the compression garments really are fantastic when it comes to preventing the swelling from coming on and buying you up time because it makes the walls of the balloon thicker, so it takes more time for the fluid pressure in order to overpower them and get the swelling to come on. When you are looking at a compression garment, the most powerful compression garment you can purchase without a prescription is 20/30. And so we often recommend that will be the case. If you do have problems with your heart or with your kidneys, then you might have to be careful about the pressure from the compression garment, because it will move the fluid up into your abdominal cavity. If you're not draining it all the way out, it can be hard on your internal organs. So you want to get a little advice from your medical people if you do have any cardiovascular issues. But again, if you just have modest swelling, not because of an unfortunate situation where you've had lymph nodes removed, if you just have modest swelling, it should be pretty safe in order to drain this fluid out. The way that you would get the stocking on is not by bunching it up and then trying to pull it over, because there's just too much tension. So you're going to have it so you only have to deal with a layer or two at a time. So you're going to turn the stocking inside out. You'll hold on to the bottom of the heel, and then you're going to straighten the rest of the sock over the foot. And then we'll take this away, and then she is going to take this and she's going to slide her foot into the foot part of the stocking, and she'll get it up to the close to the heel as she can, and then she's just going to grab the ends of the stocking and she'll just pull it up so she doesn't have to deal with too many layers at a time. It makes getting the stocking on very possible. It can be such trouble if you bunch it up and try to get too many layers at once. But you'll find that the compression stockings are terrific. A lot of people wear them just for comfort, because if they're on their feet much, even a healthy person will get some accumulation of fluid in their lower extremities. By keeping the fluid out of there, less fatigue, better muscle function, it is a nice, easy tool to acquire.